Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an angel therapy practitioner, Reiki master, intuitive guide, and empowerment coach. And I'm here with this week's Pick an Angel card reading. How this works is I'm going to do 5 different 4-card spreads with 2 different decks. I'm going to be using an angel deck as well as a deck, based on the Legend of Camelot and King Arthur. I'm going to marry the 2 decks together in a 4-card spread, which will be 2 cards in each position. The first position represents the foundational aspect, the energetic platform with which this week will step out on. The second represents the opportunity and or the obstacle. 1 coin, 2 sides. Every obstacle has an inherent opportunity, and every opportunity has an inherent obstacle. The third position represents the angel's advice for taking advantage of the opportunity or getting around the obstacle. And the final position represents the energetic dynamic at the end of the week, the potential that this week offers. Today is Monday, November 9th here in the US. And here we go. We're going to start with reading number 1. So as I'm shuffling the cards, I am using a 3rd deck based on Kyle Gray's Angels and Ancestors Oracle cards. And the card I pulled for those of you that picked angel reading number 1 is the Shield Maiden. Basically what I believe this represents and what it says is to make plans and focus. While she has a shield and a sword, I believe that the sword represents the mind, represents thoughts. It represents the air suit in some ways for me. And I feel like this is not about taking action, but about strategizing, about contemplating what you'd like to experience, and then rather than trying to figure out the how of it, it's about making plans in the respect of how does it feel when I'm sitting in this position? What am I truly focusing in on? Is it the road ahead, or is it the outcome, the possible outcome? And when I say the road ahead, oftentimes when we contemplate the road ahead, we only contemplate the obstacles. We do not contemplate the ease. And I want to say that I feel like Spirit will give you signs and omens regarding your plans and your focus. And then you'll be able to tell how it's playing out by the ease or by the obstacles. So let me put it this way. If things are closing, one door, somebody doesn't return your calls, your meetings fall apart, your car battery dies, stop, take a minute, and really look at where is your focus. Because oftentimes, inadvertently, our focus is on staving off of fear. It's in some ways, if you look at her shield, she's got to determine what she needs to protect herself from and what she doesn't. And I say she because the word made it. So we pulled, for those of you that picked angel reading number 1, we pulled Crystal, the angel, and that is being joined by the deer. In the opportunity or the obstacle, we pulled the angel Bridget and the water fairy. In the angel's advice, we pulled Indriel and the high priestess. And in the final position, we pulled Archangel Gabriel and the king. Crystal says to have faith and hope because there's more on the horizon that you can't see. And the deer represents gentleness and diplomacy during the process. Oftentimes I'll see it as fear, a deer in the headlights, but in this case I don't. I think it's about being gentle with yourself as you make plans and then observe where your focus is. Because in the opportunity and or the obstacle, we have Bridget saying to look deeper into your emotions. It is so oftentimes when the human has an initial idea, the idea is based on something to avoid a problem. You know, if you think about how we listen to television, Allstate is going to save your butt when you get in a car accident. You know, Blue Shield will be there for you when your body falls apart. So there's a focus that is inadvertently on a problem, on something that's going to trip you up. And I really believe that that is what Spirit is saying is the issue this week for those of you that pulled card reading number 1, because in the angel's advice, is Indriel, the Lightworker, and the High Priestess. And the High Priestess is a card that really represents an inner intuition. It goes back to the feelings and emotions, and to raise your vibration into the light, the truth of who you are. Because in the final position, we have Archangel Gabriel, which represents communications, represents our everyday activities in many ways with this deck. And the king to me does not represent a man, but rather justice, or rather a karmic dynamic that comes through the communications. Archangel Gabriel to me represents sort of a mercurial energy. If you study astrology, Mercury, Gemini, they represent our everyday activities, our siblings, our teammates, our roommates, the people we associate in our everyday lives. So as you take the energy of the shield maiden, and you look and you focus and you think about, where do I want to be a year from now? And it isn't about being able to see how you'll get there. It's about being gentle as you go into the emotions of what it will feel like once you start to feel the rhythm of what you're looking for. And in doing so, the angels are asking you to keep your vibration to the highest level possible with no sight, because it is here where you will start to see the justice of your communication, our thoughts are things in the respect that they create a momentum, and that momentum kicks in the law of attraction. And as we recognize that our focus is fear-based in some way, then we can see how we're attracting in an obstacle that becomes an opportunity as we overcome it. So that's where I'm going with those of you who picked card reading number 1 today. Let's go on to reading number 2. And for those of you that picked reading number 2 while I shuffle, I have pulled a Kyle Gray card from the Angels and Ancestors deck as sort of an overview of the reading itself. And for those of you that picked card reading number 2, I pulled the Hunter. Track down your fears and desires. They are integral. Our fears and our desires are almost one coin, two sides, because once we identify a desire, it can often kick in a fear. How will I get it? Is it possible? Am I good enough? Do I have enough money? Am I pretty, skinny enough? Blah, 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 blah. So as we sit in this vibration of 2020, the middle of November, and we have some astrological dynamics that could be really stoking our fears. I believe that the angels are asking you not to track them down in a judgmental way, but to be able to identify what vibration is either serving you or working to illuminate you as to a challenge that isn't serving you. So for those of you that pulled angel reading number 2, I pulled Archangel Gabriel along with the Water Fairy. I pulled Archangel Raphael and the Wrist card. I pulled Bethany and the Birth and Rebirth card, and I pulled Daniel and the Stag. Archangel Gabriel talks about, in this deck, about my insecurities and my communication, and to allow myself the privilege of turning over my insecurities to her so she can give me an experience that shifts my emotions. And I want to say it this way, because we pulled the Hunter, asking us to track down our fears and desires. And very much so, I believe that Archangel Gabriel and the Water Fairy are asking you to track them down in a way that is not about assessing whether or not they are viable or valid, but rather than just to identify them. Because Archangel Raphael is offering a healing, but in some ways you're going to have to risk putting yourself first, putting your wants and your desires first, and in identifying your fears. What are yours and what are those that have been given to you? Are there fears that are attached to other humans and their judgment of what you want and desire? Because in the Angel's Advice, I have Bethany, a card of self-care, and then I have the Birth and the Rebirth card. And for those of you that picked angel reading number 2, this is really about a rebirth, and that rebirth is only viable as much as you're willing to risk a healing of something that is outside of what the collective may believe is viable for you as a human. Because Daniel, the angel Daniel, and we have the Stag, which is about leadership. It's also about pride. And Daniel, the angel of marriage, I don't believe is talking about marriage to another human being here. I believe Daniel talks about bringing my history. What history am I bringing into a situation? Where am I inadvertently taking an old dynamic and putting it and imprinting it on a new dynamic? And that's where I go back to Archangel Gabriel and the water fairy. If I am indeed, in some ways, projecting a fear, and that fear is attached to my desire, that I in some ways must risk ignoring the fear of what came before and be willing to stand taking care of myself as I allow for this rebirth, and to use my history to stand in leadership for myself. So to encapsulate this, for those of you that picked angel reading number 2, in tracking down your fears and your desires, you'll see that it's one coin, two sides. And in doing so, it gives you an opportunity to choose whether or not your story, your history, your previous experiences are going to be taken into a new experience, or rather transformed into a tool that will allow you to identify something before you invest your heart into it and see if it is indeed viable to where you want to go and what you want to experience in life. All right, here we go. On to angel reading number 3. All right, for those of you that picked angel reading number 3, I pulled a Kyle Gray card ahead of time, and that card is Autumn. Release the old and rest. It has been a very, very trying year, 2020. We've seen many people's lives turned upside down, and I do believe that in the releasing of the old, it is not about trying to exterminate it or pretend it didn't happen, or release is a weird word for me, because when I've experienced something, it becomes part of the tapestry of my life. So I want to offer it this way. When you look at the crow offering the season of autumn, it's a harvesting season. It's a time when, as things start to die off, they transform into a way. And I'm thinking of a garden right now, and how the leaves are turned into compost, and that compost actually feeds the new cycle. So I hope that this week you'll start to give yourself a break and take a rest from what has been, and then see how the old can be transformed into a dynamic that actually works to support your endeavors, what you want for the future versus what has been in the past. So for those of you that picked angel reading number 3, I pulled Archangel Raphael and the birth and the rebirth card, which makes perfect sense because that's what we're talking about. Autumn leaves fall, and as they fall and go into the season of decay, they're transformed into something that feeds the spring. So now Archangel Raphael is offering a healing as you give life to a new beginning, a birth and a rebirth. And in many ways, Archangel Gabriel, in the opportunity or the obstacle, is saying that you will experience a sense of forgiveness as you communicate your insecurities, your trepidations, your concerns, as you release the old, in the way of not letting it go and sitting by the side of the road like it never happened, but letting the hurt and the disappointment transform you into something that when you smell that energy again, when you feel it again, you will have the courage to stand up for yourself. And so this is your opportunity and or your obstacle. And for me, forgiveness becomes an opportunity for me to reconcile it, an experience, to take it and rather be a victim to it. I can be empowered by it, by allowing myself to use the energy to support my endeavors versus pulling me under. Because in the angel's advice to take advantage of the opportunity for forgiveness and reconciliation is Archangel Michael. And Archangel Michael is the angel of protection, but in this sense, he's asking us to have the courage to see where our focus is. We are all co-creating, whether we know it or not. Every experience we have on some level, we have on a soul level agreed to to walk through. And I don't want to say that those that have been, you know, in such extreme negative situations are responsible for that situation. I'm thinking to myself, if people have been abused in some way, but oftentimes the soul will stand in service to another soul and take this position of being vulnerable to that person's energy or to that person's leadership. Because at the end of the day, for those of you that picked number 3, angel reading number 3, part of releasing the old is reconciling the experience in a way that empowers you. And if you feel somehow victimized by it, what if there is the possibility that you are serving to heal not only someone else but yourself? Because in the final position, I have Crystal saying, have faith and hope, because there's more on the horizon that you can't see, and there is the risk card. And the risk is that there will be a rebirth. And that is exactly what the autumn offers us, a harvesting of a situation in order to allow the natural cycles of life and death to transform into new life. All right, let's go on to angel reading number 4. So for those of you that picked angel reading number 4, I have pulled a Kyle Gray card for you, and that card is the Spirit Fox. Trust your talents in changing times. The fox is an interesting animal and an interesting totem because it learns to thrive both in the city environment as well as in an urban environment. It learns how to adapt, and it also is an animal that has been hunted for its fur. So it has learned how to identify environments that are dangerous as well as environments where it feels safe. And sometimes it uses its ability to adapt to almost hide in plain sight. You know, a fox looks similar to a dog in some ways. So I want to offer those of you that picked angel reading number 4 to trust your talents in changing times is your ability to adapt to situations that may be out of your control. Our first angel is Bridget. The second is Serena. The third is Merlina. And the final is Grace and Antoinette. All right. Bridget is being joined by the Serpent. Serena is being joined by the Letting Go card. Merlina is being joined by the High Priestess. And Grace and Antoinette is being joined by the Earth Fairy. Bridget says to look deeper into a situation before proceeding further. And the Serpent talks about knowledge and healing, but it's also about shedding a skin and giving new life to something. And I feel as if when I look at this, for people who picked angel reading number 4, to trust your talents in changing times is to really bet on yourself. And if those talents are potentially something that will produce income for you, or money or resources for your material well-being, I believe that Spirit is asking you to truly look deeper into your motivations, because to trust your own talents is where your truth lies. It's where your true abundance lies. Because in the opportunity and or the obstacle, I have Serena, the angel of abundance, and she says that God is in charge of the resources that you need, and your job is to be in reception of that. And then I see the Letting Go card. And that card for me is really akin to the idea of the song Let It Go from the movie Frozen. It's funny how some distance makes everything look small, and the fears that once controlled me can't get to me at all. It's time to see what I can do to test the limits, to break through. No right, no wrong, no rules for me. I'm free. In the angel's advice is Merlina, the angel of confusion, of needing to do more research. But this research goes down not in a book. It's not in a magazine. It's not on Google. It's going into your heart chakra and really looking at how you make your money, and if indeed it is serving your greatest happiness. Because your challenge is to trust that your ability to create is not because someone else is paying you money, but rather your talents are drawing in the resources that support a bigger version of yourself, because you're going through a transformation. And part of it is allowing yourself to have compassion for yourself as you rewrite the story. The Earth Fairy here is talking about physical healing, but a foundation. I think of it as building a home, and you're building a new home based on your own talents. And I want to say this in such a way where, if indeed you're feeling insecure that your talents can produce the income you need to survive, to thrive in the material world, then part of your week's opportunity is to say to Spirit, now that you have told me to trust my talents, give me experiences and opportunities that support that trust, so that I can align my being energy with you, so that I can experience this in the material world. That's where I want to go. It feels very much as if this week feels a little bit back and forth, a little bit like there's a part of you that will trust, then you might be unsure, and the real opportunity comes from continuing to trust and connecting with Spirit in a way that puts them on task to show you and anchor you into an experience that allows you to rewrite your foundation. All right, let's go on to angel reading number 5. Those of you that pulled angel reading number 5, the Kyle Gray card that I pulled for you this week is the She-Wolf. Unleash the wild within. And when I looked at that, I didn't think wild like wild crazy. I thought actually my instincts. The moon represents our intuition. It represents our emotional body. In astrology, the moon rules the 4th house of home and hearth and family. And I feel like this connection, the wolf is a very loyal animal. So I feel like unleashing the wild within, for you that picked card reading number 5, is about trusting an intuition inside of you. And in some ways being loyal to that intuition as Spirit gives you experiences to support that loyalty. Our first angel is Francesca. The second is Oceana. The third is Rochelle. And the final is Vanessa. Wow. Does that support? Well, I'll explain in a minute. Hold on. Francesca is being joined by the Trust card. Oceana is being joined by the High Priestess. Rochelle is being joined by the Raven. And Vanessa is being joined by the Birth and the Rebirth card. So Francesca says, what do you visualize right now? Focus on that and it will come about. Negativity will block your progress. And there's the Trust card. And this right goes back for me into the She-Wolf. Trusting and intuition and inner knowing, and then calling upon God and the angels to support that inner knowing represented by the moon. And the inner knowing is really more at this point a concept. It's almost like a soul's contract that is yearning you forward, and then the personality and the human part of you saying, wait a minute, I'm not sure, can I or can't I? Because in your opportunity and or your obstacle is Oceana saying to take action. You're in touch with your truth and to lovingly assert yourself. And here we see the ocean. And this Oceana is swimming up through the ocean, the waters. The moon rules the tides and also, again, represents the flow of our emotions. And here's the High Priestess, really, trusting an intuition within us that is not manifested in the material world and yet is yearning you forward. Because in the angel's advice, for those of you that picked angel reading number 5, is Rochelle saying, now that she says, as you honor and follow the guidance of your heart, prosperity is coming to you. And here is the Raven, which represents magic, coincidence, and synchronistic events. This year of 2020, Spirit has been giving me the message that disruption is the doorway to our dreams. It's almost as if as old structures and old beliefs break down, it opens up new avenues and new opportunities to step into a vibration that we've always dreamed of and always thought, oh, if I could only. And now is a time to really focus on that and trust in some ways that the contract your soul has made in this earthly incarnation is viable. Your dreams, your living your best truth actually serves the greater whole. Because in the final position, we have Vanessa asking you if you're going to base your decisions on faith or fear. And then we have the birth and the rebirth card. So here we go back to the she-wolf, where she's really howling at the moon. I trust my instincts and I tap into a deeper part of my intuition, an instinctual part of my intuition that allows me to pay attention to where I'm focusing. And that focus, and where is my focus? It's in a bigger situation, trusting a higher part of myself, a part of myself that is holding space in another realm. And that realm is the realm of my heart, the realm of all possibilities being viable. And now, as you give life to faith over fear, you give life to a rebirth of who you are and what you experience on this planet. So that's it for angel reading number 5. This is, again, my name is Teri Hunter. And weekly I come in on Mondays and do this video so that you can pick and you can use your own intuition to allow you to get your own advice. And if indeed you're drawn to watch more than one, go ahead. You can watch all 5 of these. Each one will produce a little pearl or something that will help you move forward to be a more influential and intentional creator within your own life. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, please comment, please share, please like the video. And if you'd like to get a personal reading with me, my information is in the description below. And I'll be back again next week with another Pick Your Angel Card reading. Have a wonderful week, everybody. Again, my name is Teri Hunter. Peace out.